In this unit, we're looking at probability distributions, and probability distributions within Minitab are all found here under the Calc tab. So if I go Calc, probability distributions, you will see that there is a very large list, and we will be doing some of these. Now, in this example that I have here in your notes, we're using the binomial distribution in order to find the probability that x will be equal to a certain range of values. And because I'm going to do this for more than one value of x, before I use this, I'm going to come down into my spreadsheet, and I am going to create a range of values for x. And in this problem, we're using n equals 15, so that means x could be a whole number value between 0 and 15, and we got to include 0. So I'm going to create a column here of values from 0 to 15. Now, I could type this in if I want, or I can use my make pattern data function. I want a simple set of numbers. I'm going to store it in column C1. My first value is going to be 0. My last value is going to be 15. I'm going to go in steps of 1, meaning it's going to start at 0, then it'll add a 1, add another 1, so it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till it gets to 15. Each value is listed once, and I only want the sequence once. I say OK, and here now I have my numbers from 0 to 15. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get Minitab to give me the probability that x could be equal to 0, equal to 1, equal to 2, and do them all in one shot. So up here under the Calc tab, I'm going to probability distributions. We're using the binomial. All right, and because we're using, or we're looking for a probability that x is precisely equal to a certain value, we got to change the radio button. The default is cumulative, which we'll get to in a bit. Right now, we're going to use what's referred to as the probability density function, and it will give me the value of the probability that x is precisely equal to a certain value. Now, in this program, you have to tell Minitab what is your sample size and what is the proportion of the population with the characteristic of interest. Now, in this case, we know that we're picking a sample of 15, n equals 15, and in this problem described in your notes, 10% of our population has whatever this characteristic of interest is, and I can't write in 10 here. When it comes to event probability, it wants a number from 0 to 1, so 10% as a decimal is 0.1. And in this part of the problem, I'm going to give Minitab all 16 values, 16 because I'm including the 0. So where it says input column, I'm going to take all the numbers that I have in column C1, which I simply called x, and I can store these values, but I really don't need to. I'm simply going to say OK, and when I do that now, note that Minitab has given me the probability that none of the 15 items I pick has the characteristic of interest. That probability is 0.205, so roughly 20.5% chance. The probability that exactly 1 out of these 15 has the characteristic of interest is 0.343, etc., all the way down to 15. And notice, by the way, that my probabilities are higher up here, and the further I get away from, in this case, the further I get away from 1, the smaller and smaller my probabilities get. Okay, now I'm also going to do here, so in this part of the problem, I got Minitab to give me the probabilities of all values of x, which you may or may not need. In the next part of the problem coming up, we're being asked to find the probability that x is simply equal to 7. So all right, now I'm not going to use a column of numbers. I'm going to input one single number, and in this case I'm choosing the value of 7. So what I really want Minitab to do for me here is give me the probability simply that x is equal to 7. If I say OK to this, here's my answer, and if I come up to the 7 up here, I can see the value is exactly the same, but rather than doing the entire, all values of x, we can simply pick one particular value of x.